Why does my father have a go bag packed by the door at all times? The duffel bag by our front door has been there for as long as I can remember, sitting like a faithful dog waiting for a walk that never comes. Dad always said it was his emergency kit, flashlights, batteries, first aid supplies. Standard suburban dad stuff. I believed him until last Tuesday at 2:47 a.m. when I came downstairs for water and caught him crouched beside it, methodically checking the contents by the glow of his phone. 3 stacks of cash, each bound with rubber bands. A flip phone still in its plastic packaging. And what looked like driver's licenses, plural. He didn't see me on the stairs. I held my breath, gripping the banister as he lifted what appeared to be a passport, studied it for a moment, then tucked it back into an inner pocket with practiced efficiency. The whole inspection took maybe 90 seconds. Then he zipped the bag, patted it twice like he was saying goodnight, and headed back upstairs. I waited until I heard his bedroom door click shut before creeping back to my room, mind racing. What kind of accountant keeps multiple IDs in an emergency bag? What kind of father lies to his 17-year-old son about something so obvious? The next morning, Dad was making pancakes like nothing had happened. Same routine as always, coffee brewing at exactly 6:15, NPR murmuring from the kitchen radio, Mom rushing around looking for her work badge. "Sleep okay, Jesse?" Dad asked, sliding a plate across our breakfast counter. He looked completely normal in his wrinkled button-down and tie with a small coffee stain near the bottom, the same tie he'd worn every Thursday for the past 2 years. "Yeah, fine." I studied his face for any sign that he knew I'd seen him. Nothing. Just Dad being Dad, humming along to Morning Edition while flipping pancakes with mechanical precision. But I couldn't stop staring at the bag. It sat there in our entryway, innocent as a sleeping cat, right between Mom's running shoes and the umbrella stand. How had I never really looked at it before? Now that I was paying attention, I noticed things. The way it never moved, even when Mom vacuumed around it. How the leather was worn smooth on the handles, like it had been grabbed frequently. The fact that it was always zipped shut. What emergency kit needs to be sealed up tight? "Dad," I said carefully, testing the waters. "That bag by the door, what's actually in it?" Mom looked up from her coffee. "Oh, that old thing. Your father's been dragging that around since before you were born. Haven't you, David?" Dad's spatula froze mid-flip for just a fraction of a second. "Just emergency supplies. You know how I like to be prepared." "Prepared for what?" "Anything." The pancake landed perfectly centered on the plate, but I caught the slight tremor in his voice. "Power outages. Natural disasters. Better safe than sorry." Mom laughed. "Your father watched one too many disaster movies in the 80s. Now he thinks we're going to need to evacuate at a moment's notice." But she didn't see what I saw, the way Dad's jaw tightened, or how his knuckles went white around the spatula handle. She didn't notice him glance toward the front door, just for a second, like he was calculating distances. "Right," I said slowly. "Better safe than sorry." That afternoon, I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to find out what was really in that bag. Waiting for the right moment felt like planning a heist. Dad worked late on Fridays, always staying until at least 7 to finish the weekly reports for Henderson and Associates. Mom had book club every other Friday, her sacred time with wine and whatever thriller they'd picked that month. I had exactly 2 hours. At 5:23 p.m., I watched Mom's Honda disappear around the corner, clutching The Silent Patient and a bottle of Pinot Grigio. The house settled into that particular quiet that only comes when you're completely alone. No humming from the kitchen, no muffled phone calls from Dad's home office, no distant sound of Mom's true crime podcasts drifting down the hallway. The bag seemed heavier than I expected as I carried it to the living room. My hands were actually shaking, ridiculous, considering it belonged to my own father. But something about the weight distribution felt wrong, like the contents had been arranged with specific purpose rather than just tossed in. I set it on our coffee table and stared at the zipper pull for a full minute, heart hammering. This was it. No going back to believing in Dad's emergency kit story after this. The first thing I found was a manila envelope thick with cash. Not just the 3 stacks I'd glimpsed, there were 5 bundles, each containing what looked like 50 $20 bills. $5,000. Who keeps $5,000 in cash just sitting by their front door? Underneath the money, 2 flip phones, both still sealed in plastic. A small digital camera from maybe 10 years ago. A flash drive. And then, in a leather document folder that looked like it had seen serious use, the IDs I'd spotted before. 3 driver's licenses, all with Dad's photo but different names. David Chin from Oregon, that was us, that was real. But also Michael Torres from Nevada and James Liu from Colorado. The photos were definitely him, just with different haircuts spanning what looked like 15 years. The Michael Torres license showed Dad with longer hair and no glasses, maybe from his 20s. James Liu looked more recent, taken when he had that mustache phase 3 years ago that Mom had hated. My hands were trembling as I opened what turned out to be 2 passports. David Chen and Michael Torres again, both valid, both with entry stamps from Canada dated within the last 5 years. When had Dad gone to Canada? He'd never mentioned any business trips to Canada. At the bottom of the bag, wrapped in a plastic bag like evidence from a crime scene, was a cell phone that wasn't sealed in packaging. This one looked used, with a small crack across the screen. When I pressed the power button, it came to life immediately, fully charged. The home screen showed no personal photos, no apps except the basics. Just a phone that was ready to make calls at any moment. But it was the folded papers tucked into the document sleeve that made my blood freeze. Printouts of news articles, some so old they looked like they'd been copied multiple times. The headlines were grainy but readable. Star witness testimony leads to conviction in Torino family case. Federal prosecution celebrates victory in RICO trial. Anthony Torino sentenced to life without parole. And there, in a black and white photo accompanying one article, was a younger version of my father walking up courthouse steps, flanked by 2 men in suits who looked unmistakably like federal agents. The caption read, "Michael Torres, key witness in the prosecution's case against the Torino crime family, arriving at federal court yesterday." I dropped the papers like they were on fire. Michael Torres. One of Dad's fake names. Except apparently it wasn't fake at all. My father had testified against the mob. My ordinary, pancake-making, NPR-listening accountant father had put away what looked like some kind of crime boss. And judging by these old articles, he'd done it 20 years ago when I was still in diapers. I spread the papers across our coffee table with shaking hands. Most were photocopies of photocopies, the text blurry but readable enough to piece together the story. The Torino family had run drugs and money through half the West Coast. Michael Torres, my dad, had been their accountant before he grew a conscience and decided to cooperate with the FBI. His testimony had been the linchpin that brought down Anthony Torino and 6 other family members. One article mentioned that Torres had been placed in federal protection following credible threats against his life. Another noted that the witness's location remains classified due to ongoing safety concerns. So David Chin wasn't just a fake name, it was a new identity. Our whole life in suburban Portland, everything I'd grown up believing about our family, was essentially a government-issued fiction. I found more papers underneath, and these looked recent. Printed emails with timestamps from just 3 months ago, all from addresses that meant nothing to me. But the subject lines made my stomach clench. Package delivered to Portland address. Confirmation on David Chin residence. Timeline for resolution. Someone had been looking for us. Recently. The last email, dated 8 weeks ago, was different. Instead of the cryptic corporate language, this one was direct. Torres spotted at Whole Foods on Burnside. Positive identification. Awaiting instructions. Dad knew. He'd known for 2 months that someone had found us. That's why I'd caught him checking the bag. He wasn't just maintaining some old habit. He was getting ready to run. I grabbed my phone to take pictures of everything, my fingers fumbling as I tried to document what felt like evidence of my life being a lie. But as I held up the camera, a terrible realization hit me. Last month's family dinner at Aunt Sarah's. Dad had been weird about photos, making excuses whenever Sarah tried to take pictures of us all together. But I'd gotten frustrated with him being antisocial and snapped a quick selfie of me, him, and Mom by the fireplace. Posted it to Instagram that same night with the caption, "Family time with the parents #blessed." The photo had gotten more likes than usual. Sarah had shared it to Facebook, a few of my friends had reposted it to their stories. I remembered being happy that it spread around because Mom looked really pretty and Dad had actually smiled naturally for once. Oh God. Oh God, oh God, oh God. I scrambled for my phone and opened Instagram, searching for the post. There it was from September 23rd, 47 likes, 12 comments, and a little paper airplane icon showing it had been shared 6 times. All of our faces clearly visible, tagged with our location at Sarah's house in Beaverton. The email about Dad being spotted at Whole Foods was dated September 30th. 1 week after I'd posted our family photo online. I'd led them right to us. 20 years of careful hiding, 20 years of my father living under an assumed name to keep us safe, and I'd blown it with a stupid Instagram post because I wanted to show off how happy we looked. The front door lock clicked, and I heard Mom's voice calling out, "Jesse." I forgot my book. She was back early, probably just grabbing something before heading back to book club. I had maybe 30 seconds to get everything back in the bag before she walked into the living room and saw our entire fake life spread across the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. My hands moved in pure panic mode, shoving papers and IDs back into the bag with all the grace of a tornado. The cash got stuffed in wrong, bills sticking out at weird angles, but I could hear Mom's heels clicking across the hardwood floor toward the living room. Just grabbing my reading glasses, she called out, and I heard her footsteps pause in the kitchen. "Did you eat dinner yet, honey?" "Yeah, made a sandwich," I managed, my voice cracking like I was 13 again. The passport slipped from my sweaty fingers and I had to crawl under the coffee table to retrieve them. "There's leftover lasagna in the fridge if you want something more substantial." 30 seconds had become 15. I crammed the flip phones back in, not caring that they weren't in the same pockets as before. Dad would notice. I was sure he'd memorized every detail of how that bag was packed, but getting caught red-handed by Mom seemed like a more immediate disaster. The zipper stuck halfway closed on a corner of manila envelope that I'd folded wrong. I yanked at it, sweat beading on my forehead, as Mom's footsteps started moving toward the living room again. "Have you seen my glasses?" I could have sworn I left them on though. She appeared in the doorway just as I managed to force the zipper closed and swing the bag off the coffee table. For a horrible moment we just stared at each other, me clutching Dad's go bag against my chest like a shield, her with a confused expression that was rapidly shifting toward suspicion. "Jesse. What are you doing with your father's emergency kit?" The lie came out before I'd even formed it completely. The strap was twisted. It was bugging me every time I walked past it, so I was just fixing it. Mom's eyes narrowed slightly. She'd always been good at detecting my bullshit, a skill honed by 17 years of practice. "You were fixing the strap by bringing the whole bag in here." I wanted to check if it was torn. You know how Dad gets about his stuff breaking. I forced what I hoped was a casual shrug. "Everything's fine though. Just twisted." She studied my face for what felt like an eternity but was probably only 5 seconds. I tried to look bored, like getting caught manhandling Dad's mysterious duffel bag was just another mundane Friday evening activity. "Okay," she said slowly. "Well, put it back where it belongs. Your father doesn't like his things moved around." "Sure thing." I walked past her toward the entryway, fighting every instinct that screamed at me to run. The bag felt like it weighed 100 pounds now that I knew what was inside. As I set it back in its designated spot between the running shoes and umbrella stand, I caught Mom watching me from the living room doorway. "Found them," she said, holding up her reading glasses from the side table. "They were right where I left them." "Great. Have fun at book club. Jesse." Her voice had that particular tone that meant she was about to say something important. "Is everything okay? You seem, I don't know, tense." The concern in her voice almost broke me. Here she was, worrying about my stress levels, and she had no idea that our entire life was built on federal witness protection lies. That people were actively hunting for us. That her son had potentially gotten the whole family killed with a single Instagram post. Just school stuff. College applications are due soon. Oh, honey, don't stress yourself too much about that. You're going to do great wherever you end up. She smiled, the same warm smile that had comforted me through skinned knees and bad test grades for 17 years. Your father and I are so proud of you, you know that. The guilt hit me like a physical weight in my chest. I know, Mom. Good. I'll be home by 10. Don't wait up. I listened to her car pull out of the driveway, then immediately grabbed my laptop. I pulled up Instagram and stared at that family photo again, studying every pixel like it might reveal some way to undo what I'd done. 47 likes had turned into 53. The comments were typical, cute family, and, your dad looks so young. One from my friend Marcus, your pops looks like that actor from the mob movie we watched. My blood went cold. Even my friends were making connections. I clicked through to see who had shared it. Sarah's Facebook repost had gotten 12 shares of its own. One of those had been shared again by someone I didn't recognize, Jennifer Walsh, whose profile showed she lived in Las Vegas. Her share had 2 comments, nice family, and Dave looks good. Dave. Not David. Dave. I clicked on Jennifer's profile, hands shaking as I scrolled through her photos. Most were generic, sunset shots, food pics, motivational quotes. But 3 weeks ago, she'd posted a group photo at what looked like a restaurant. 5 middle-aged people around a table, raising glasses in a toast. The caption read, Annual Tribute Dinner for Uncle Tony. Still miss you every day. Uncle Tony. Anthony Torino was supposed to be serving life in prison, but people have relatives. People have friends who remember. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad, working late tonight. Don't wait up. Make sure all doors are locked before bed. He never reminded me to lock doors. In 17 years, not once had he sent a text about home security. I checked the timestamp, sent 20 minutes ago, right around when I'd been stuffing evidence back into his go bag. 3 more texts came through in rapid succession. Actually, can you check that the back door is locked too? Kitchen window latches. Also put the porch light on. Good to keep exterior well lit. Love you, son. That last one hit different. Dad wasn't sentimental over text. Our typical exchange was, pick up milk and okay. He'd never once ended a message with, love you, that was Mom's territory. I walked through the house, checking every lock twice, turning on lights I'd never bothered with before. The kitchen window latch was fine, but as I tested it, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Fresh scratches around the lock mechanism, like someone had been testing it with a tool. The scratches were bright silver against the painted metal, recent. My phone rang, making me jump so hard I knocked over Mom's coffee mug on the counter. Unknown number. Hello. Silence. Not dead air, I could hear breathing, maybe traffic in the background. Hello. I said again. A man's voice, gravelly and calm, you have a very nice family, Jesse. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, hands trembling so badly I could barely hold it. He knew my name. Someone I'd never spoken to knew my name and had just called our house phone number to talk about my family in past tense. I tried calling Dad, but it went straight to voicemail. Tried Mom, same thing. Either they both had their phones off, or something was very wrong. The house felt different now, like all the familiar shadows had shifted into potential hiding spots. Every creak of the floorboard sounded like footsteps. The refrigerator's hum became background noise for someone moving around outside. I grabbed Dad's go bag and ran upstairs to my room, locking the door behind me. My laptop was still open to Instagram, that stupid family photo smiling back at me like evidence of my own massive mistake. 47 likes. 12 shares. 1 phone call. And somewhere in the distance, I could swear I heard a car engine running on our street, idling like it was waiting for something. I called Dad 17 times in the next hour. Every call went straight to voicemail, his cheerful recorded voice saying he'd get back to me soon sounding more ominous each time I heard it. Mom's phone was doing the same thing, straight to that generic automated message that meant her phone was either dead or turned off. The car outside had moved twice. I'd been tracking it from my bedroom window, watching a dark sedan that kept repositioning itself with a clear view of our front door. First it was parked 3 houses down by the Hendersons' mailbox. Then it moved closer, stopping right across from our driveway. Now it was 1 house over, engine off but definitely occupied. I could see the faint glow of someone smoking in the driver's seat. At 8:47 p.m., I made a decision that probably saved my life. I opened my closet and started packing. Not everything, that would take too long and look too obvious if someone was watching. Just essentials crammed into my school backpack. 3 changes of clothes, toiletries, my laptop, phone charger, and every bit of cash I could find in my room. $83 from birthday money and odd jobs. The photo albums were harder to leave behind. Mom's carefully organized books full of my entire childhood, birthday parties and Christmas mornings and family vacations that now felt like elaborate props in some federal witness protection stage play. I grabbed one recent photo of the 3 of us from last Christmas and stuffed it into my wallet. As I zipped up the backpack, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your father wants you to meet him at the office. I'm coming to pick you up. No. Dad would never send someone I didn't know to get me. And he definitely wouldn't communicate through a stranger's phone when he had his own perfectly good cell number that was apparently just going straight to voicemail. I texted back, who is this? The response came immediately, family friend. David asked me to bring you somewhere safe. David. Not Dad, not Mr. Chen. David. Like they knew him but weren't trying very hard to pretend they were actually friends with our family. Another text, I'm the blue Honda parked outside. Come down when you're ready. I looked out my window. The sedan was gone, replaced by a blue Honda Civic that definitely hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. The driver's door was opening, and a tall man in a baseball cap started walking toward our front door. Time to go. I grabbed Dad's duffel bag in my backpack, taking the stairs 2 at a time as quietly as possible. The front door was obviously not an option, and the back door led to our fenced yard with only one exit, right past whoever was now knocking on our front door. Jesse. The voice was loud enough to carry through the whole house. Your dad sent me to get you. Everything's okay. The knocking got more insistent. Jesse, I know you're in there. Your father's worried about you. I slipped into Dad's home office and opened the window that faced our neighbor's yard. The Patels had a 6-foot fence separating our properties, but I climbed it plenty of times as a kid to retrieve soccer balls. The drop was manageable if I lowered the bags down first. The front door knocking stopped. In the sudden quiet, I could hear footsteps moving around our house toward the backyard. The office window screen came out easily. Dad had always been bad about maintaining them, and this one basically fell apart in my hands. I lowered both bags into the Patel's garden, trying not to crush Mrs. Patel's prized tomato plants. Jesse. The voice was coming from our backyard now. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. We just want to talk. I swung my leg over the windowsill just as I heard the unmistakable sound of our back door being forced open. The lock Dad had told me to check, the one with fresh scratches around it, had apparently not been strong enough. The drop into the Patel's yard was rougher than I remembered from childhood, my 17-year-old knees reminding me that I wasn't 10 anymore. But adrenaline is a hell of a thing. I grabbed both bags and ran for their side gate, not caring about the noise anymore. Behind me, I could see flashlight beams moving through our house, searching room by room. I had maybe a 3-minute head start before they figured out how I'd gotten out. The Patel's side gate was locked, but their fence was lower on the street side. I threw both bags over first, then hauled myself up and over, landing hard on the sidewalk just as lights came on in our house, every room suddenly blazing like a Christmas display. 3 blocks. I needed to get at least 3 blocks away before I could think clearly. My legs were shaking from adrenaline, but I forced myself to walk normally instead of running. Running draws attention, and the last thing I needed was some concerned neighbor calling the cops about a teenager fleeing through the streets with 2 suspicious bags at 9 p.m. on a Friday night. At the corner of Maple and 3rd, I finally stopped to catch my breath and check my phone. 2 new texts from the unknown number. Jesse, we're not going to hurt you. We just need to talk. Your father made some promises a long time ago. We're here to collect. I turned my phone off completely and removed the battery, something I'd seen in movies but never thought I'd actually need to do. If they could text me, they might be able to track me. The 24-hour Denny's on Powell Boulevard became my temporary refuge. I chose a corner booth with clear sightlines to both entrances and ordered coffee I didn't want, just to have a reason to sit there. The waitress looked like she'd seen everything twice, which made me hope she wouldn't remember one more anxious teenager nursing a cup of coffee. I spread Dad's documents across the table, trying to piece together 20 years of lies while keeping one eye on the parking lot. The news articles painted a clearer picture now. Michael Torres hadn't just been the Torino family's accountant, he'd been Anthony Torino's brother-in-law. Married to Torino's younger sister, Maria, before everything went sideways. That detail hit me like a physical blow. Maria Torres. My mother had been Maria Torres before she became Linda Chen. Mom wasn't just an innocent victim caught up in Dad's witness protection story, she was family. She testified against her own brother. One of the older articles mentioned that Maria Torres had provided crucial financial records that corroborated her husband's testimony. The sisters' betrayal, one headline called it, seals Anthony Torino's fate. No wonder they'd been hunting us for 20 years. Dad hadn't just broken some professional code of silence, he'd convinced his wife to help destroy her own family. I found more recent papers buried deeper in the stack. Communication logs between Dad and someone listed only as Handler J. Morrison. The most recent entry was dated 3 days ago. Subjects, Michael and Maria Torres, son Jesse Chin. Status, compromised as of September 30th. Threat level, immediate. Recommendation, emergency relocation within 72 hours. Family decision, declined relocation. Request for additional 30 days to handle personal affairs. Dad had known for 3 days that we needed to run, and he'd asked for more time. Personal affairs, what could possibly be worth risking our lives for an extra month? My coffee had gone cold when I noticed the blue Honda Civic pulling into the Denny's parking lot. The same car. The same driver in the baseball cap, now scanning the restaurant windows methodically. He was talking on his phone, and even from inside I could see him pointing toward the building. I grabbed the papers and bags, leaving a $5 bill on the table as I headed for the back exit. The kitchen staff barely looked up, apparently teenagers fleeing through their workspace wasn't unusual enough to warrant comment. The alley behind Denny's connected to a residential neighborhood I didn't recognize. Street after street of small houses with bars on the windows and cars that had seen better decades. Not exactly the suburban bubble I'd grown up in, but anonymous enough to disappear into. At a bus stop on 82nd Avenue, I finally risked turning my phone back on. 17 missed calls from unknown numbers, but one text from a contact I recognized, Jeremy Patel. Our neighbor's son, 2 years older than me, away at college in Seattle. Dude, cops are all over your house. Everything okay? I stared at the message, trying to process what that meant. Cops suggested something official, maybe even legitimate. Unless the people looking for us were good enough to impersonate police officers. I texted back, what kind of cops? How many? Like 6 cars. Detectives maybe. They're talking to my parents about when they last saw your family. 6 police cars wasn't a wellness check. That was either a crime scene or something much worse. The number 20 bus pulled up, and I climbed on without checking where it was headed. The bus was nearly empty at 10:23 p.m., just me and an elderly woman clutching a grocery bag full of cat food. I slumped into a seat near the back, Dad's duffel bag pressed against my legs like an anchor to reality. Through the grimy window, Portland's east side rolled past in a blur of neon and shadows. My phone buzzed again. Jeremy, my dad says the cops are asking about suspicious activity. Someone reported break-ins on your street tonight. Break-ins. Plural. They weren't just looking for me, they were probably hitting multiple houses, maybe trying to flush me out or cover their tracks. The blue Honda driver could have been checking the Henderson's place, the Washington's house, anywhere I might have run to. I texted Jeremy back, did they say anything about my parents? The response took 5 minutes. One detective asked if we'd seen them today. My mom said she saw your dad leave for work this morning but hasn't seen him since. Work. Henderson and Associates stayed open late on Fridays for quarterly reports, but their building would be locked down tight by now. Either Dad was actually there and safe, or something had happened to him hours ago and I'd been texting with strangers all evening. The bus lurched to a stop at Sandy Boulevard, and I made a decision that felt both desperate and inevitable. I got off and started walking toward downtown, toward Dad's office building. If he was really there working late, I could warn him. If he wasn't, at least I'd know. The Henderson and Associates building was a glass and steel monument to suburban accounting success, 12 floors of fluorescent-lit cubicles and conference rooms where people like my father moved numbers around spreadsheets. At night, it looked like a stack of illuminated boxes, most floors dark except for the cleaning crew. But the 7th floor, Dad's floor, was lit up like Christmas morning. I stood across the street, hidden in the shadow of a food truck, studying every window I could see. Movement in what looked like the main conference room. Silhouettes that could have been people, or just cleaning equipment casting shadows. My phone rang, making me jump so hard I nearly dropped both bags. Unknown number, but I answered it anyway. Jesse. Dad's voice, strained and tired. Thank God. Where are you? Dad. Are you okay? I've been calling you for hours. I'm fine, son. Listen to me very carefully. Are you somewhere safe? I looked around at the empty street, the dark doorways, the building where he might or might not actually be. I'm downtown. Near your office. A pause that lasted too long. My office? Jesse, I need you to stay away from downtown. Go to your Aunt Sarah's house in Beaverton. Do you remember how to get there? Something in his voice felt wrong. Too controlled, like he was reading from a script. And Aunt Sarah's house, the same place where I'd taken that stupid family photo that started this whole nightmare. Dad, are you at the office right now? Another pause. Yes, I'm here. Working late on the Morrison account. The Morrison account. Handler J. Morrison from the federal documents. Dad was trying to tell me something without actually saying it. The Morrison account, I repeated. The one with the compromised status. This time the pause was different. Sharp, like I just said something I wasn't supposed to know. Jesse, how do you? His voice cut off, replaced by background noise that sounded like someone moving the phone. A different voice came on the line, gravelly and familiar. Your father's been telling us all about the Morrison account, Jesse. Why don't you come inside so we can all discuss it together? The same voice from the earlier call. The one who'd said I had a very nice family. I looked up at the 7th floor windows again, and this time I could make out the silhouettes more clearly. 3 figures, 1 seated, 2 standing. The seated figure looked smaller, slumped forward in a way that made my blood freeze. We'll be waiting, the voice continued. Your father's eager to see you. The line went dead, and every light on the 7th floor went out at once. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, staring up at the darkened windows where my father was being held. The smart move would have been to run, catch the next bus heading anywhere, find a phone booth, call the real police. But the image of Dad slumped in that chair kept playing in my mind, and I couldn't make my legs move away from the building. My phone buzzed with a text from the same unknown number. Lobby door will be unlocked. Elevator to 7. Come alone, obviously. They were watching me. I scanned the street, the surrounding buildings, looking for surveillance points. The parking garage across the street had perfect sightlines. So did the coffee shop on the corner, closed but with large windows that could hide observers. Another text. Jesse, you have exactly 10 minutes before we move to a less convenient location. Your father is looking forward to explaining some family history. Family history. 20 years of lies were finally catching up to us, and I was about to walk directly into the center of it all carrying Dad's go-bag full of evidence. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent the evening running from these people, only to deliver myself and all of Dad's escape resources directly to them. But what choice did I have? They had my father, possibly my mother, and enough patience to play games. 10 minutes wasn't enough time to formulate any kind of real plan. I crossed the street, every step feeling like I was walking deeper into quicksand. The lobby door was indeed unlocked, swinging open with the kind of silence that suggested someone had recently oiled the hinges. The security desk was empty, monitors showing feeds from various floors but no sign of the usual night guard. The elevator was waiting, doors open like a mouth. I stepped inside and pressed 7, watching the numbers climb while my heart hammered against my ribs. Each floor that passed felt like another step away from any possibility of escape. The doors opened onto Henderson and Associates' main reception area, normally buzzing with phones and client meetings but now eerily quiet. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the cubicle maze, and I could hear voices coming from the conference room at the far end of the floor. Just walk straight back, Jesse. The gravelly voice was coming from speakers hidden in the ceiling tiles. Don't make any detours. I navigated through the cubicles, Dad's duffel bag seeming to grow heavier with each step. As I got closer to the conference room, I could make out individual words from the conversation inside. 20 years of looking. Promised Maria we'd find. That Instagram post was a gift. Instagram post. They really had found us because of my stupid family photo. 17 likes and 12 shares had unraveled 2 decades of careful hiding. The conference room door was slightly ajar, warm light spilling into the hallway. I pushed it open and stepped into a scene that looked like a twisted business meeting. Dad sat at one end of the long table, his hands zip-tied to the chair arms, a bruise forming along his left cheekbone. 2 men in suits flanked him, one older with silver hair, one younger with the kind of build that suggested serious gym time. But it was the woman sitting across from Dad who made me stop breathing. Mom. Except she looked nothing like the Linda Chen who'd left for book club 6 hours ago. Her hair was different, pulled back severely, and she was wearing clothes I'd never seen before, a black business suit that made her look dangerous rather than maternal. Most jarring of all, she wasn't tied up. She was sitting freely, a cup of coffee in front of her like she was chairing the meeting. Hello, Jesse, she said, her voice carrying an accent I'd never heard before. We need to talk. I dropped both bags, the duffel hitting the floor with a metallic thud that echoed through the conference room. Mom. She flinched at the word, just slightly, but I caught it. Sit down, Jesse. What the hell is going on? My voice cracked like I was 12 again. Dad, are you okay? Dad's eyes met mine across the table, and I saw something there I'd never seen before: defeat. Complete, bone-deep exhaustion. I'm sorry, son. I'm so goddamn sorry. The older man with silver hair gestured to an empty chair. Your mother asked you to sit, Jesse. I'd listen to her. My mother is at book club, I said, not moving. This is some kind of sick game. The woman who looked like Mom laughed, a sound I'd heard 1,000 times over breakfast and homework help, but now it carried edges I'd never noticed. Book club ended 2 hours ago, honey. I've been here since 8:30. Maria, Dad said quietly, don't do this to him. Maria. Not Mom. Not Linda. Maria Torres, who testified against her own brother 20 years ago and then spent 2 decades playing suburban housewife while federal marshals kept us hidden. Do what, Michael? She leaned forward, hands folded like she was discussing my curfew instead of, whatever this was. Tell our son the truth. He's 17. Don't you think he deserves to know why his college applications might be irrelevant? The younger man walked over and picked up Dad's duffel bag, unzipping it with practiced efficiency. Everything's here, he reported. Cash, phones, documents. The whole exit strategy. Of course it is, Maria said. Michael's been planning his escape for 20 years. Haven't you, darling? I finally sat down, legs giving out more than any conscious decision. Escape from what? From who? From me, she said simply. From the family he destroyed. From the consequences of turning federal witness. Dad's zip ties creaked as he tried to lean forward. Jesse, whatever she's told them, whatever deal she's made, you don't have to be part of it. Deal? I looked between my parents, these two people who'd raised me and apparently lied about every fundamental aspect of our lives. What deal? Maria reached into her purse and pulled out a cell phone I recognized, Dad's iPhone, the one that had been going straight to voicemail all evening. Your father's been having some very interesting conversations with his federal handler. Agent Morrison is quite concerned about our family's well-being. She tapped the screen, and Dad's voice filled the room through the phone speaker. Need immediate extraction for all 3 of us. The situation is completely compromised. Another tap. A different conversation. My wife doesn't know they found us. Jesse definitely doesn't know. We can't just disappear without explanation. Touching, said the silver-haired man. 20 years of protection, and he's still trying to manage the narrative. I stared at Dad. You were going to leave us. Not leave you, he said desperately. Take you with me. Both of you. Start over somewhere safe. Somewhere safe, Maria repeated. Like Portland was safe. Like Denver was safe before that. How many times, Michael? How many new identities until you run out of places to hide? My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. Denver. We lived in Denver. For 3 years, she said. You were too young to remember. Michael was James Lou back then, working for a small firm in Lakewood. Until someone spotted him at a Rockies game and we had to pack up again. The baseball photos in my baby book. Dad wearing a Colorado jersey, me on his shoulders outside what I'd been told was a vacation rental. Another lie, another temporary identity that had gotten blown. The Instagram post, I said slowly. That wasn't the first time someone found us. Oh, honey. Maria's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. That Instagram post was a godsend. Do you know how long I've been waiting for someone to track us down? The room went silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Dad's face had gone completely white. You wanted them to find us? I whispered. I've been leaving breadcrumbs for 5 years, she said. Little digital traces. A LinkedIn profile here, a neighborhood directory listing there. Nothing obvious enough for the marshals to notice, but enough for people who know how to look. Maria, Jesus Christ. Don't, she snapped, her suburban mom mask finally slipping completely. Don't you dare act surprised. You destroyed my family, Michael. My brother died in federal prison because of you. Because of us. The younger man cleared his throat. We should move this along. Morrison's been trying to reach Torres for 6 hours. Eventually someone's going to come looking. Maria nodded and stood up. Jesse, pick up the bags. We're leaving. I'm not going anywhere with you people. Those people, she said, pointing at the 2 men, are your uncles. Vincent and Paul Torino. Your family. The word uncles hit me like a physical blow. I stared at the 2 men who'd been hunting us, trying to see any family resemblance in their faces. Vincent, the silver-haired one, had Mom's eyes, the same dark brown I'd inherited. Paul's jawline looked familiar too, now that I was looking for it. That's impossible, I said. Anthony Torino is in prison. He doesn't have brothers. Had brothers, Vincent corrected quietly. Tony died 18 months ago. Lung cancer. Spent his last 2 years asking us to find the sister who put him there. Maria's composure cracked for just a moment, a flash of something that might have been grief before the mask slammed back into place. He wanted to see me before he died. To understand why I chose Michael over my own family. And what was your answer going to be? Dad asked, his voice hollow. That I was young and stupid and in love with a man who convinced me that right and wrong were simple concepts. She looked directly at me. Your father was very persuasive 20 years ago, Jesse. Very good at making me believe that my brother was a monster who deserved what happened to him. Paul pulled out a tablet and set it on the conference table, swiping to a photo gallery. Your Uncle Tony at Christmas dinner, 1997. 3 months before Michael here decided to flip. The photo showed a large family gathering, at least 15 people around a massive table, laughing and passing dishes. I recognized a younger version of Maria immediately, her arm around a man who looked nothing like the crime boss from the newspaper photos. This Anthony Torino was smiling, holding a toddler who was reaching for his glasses. That's your cousin Elena, Vincent said. Tony's daughter. She was 2 when her father got arrested. Grew up thinking he was a monster because of what she saw on the news. More photos. Anthony Torino coaching a Little League team. Anthony Torino in a hospital bed, reading to the same little girl who was now older, maybe 8 or 9. Anthony Torino in what looked like a prison visiting room, an older Elena showing him a report card. He wasn't perfect, Paul said. The business had rough edges, sure. But he was family. He took care of people. Dad's laugh was bitter. He was running heroin through half the Pacific Northwest. How many kids died from the drugs your family business put on the streets? And how many families did you destroy when you brought down our distribution network? Vincent shot back. 43 people went to prison, Michael. Not just Tony. Drivers, bookkeepers, people who were just trying to feed their families. They made their choices. Like Maria made hers. Paul gestured toward Mom. Except she was 19 years old and scared out of her mind because her husband convinced her that federal prison was the only alternative to testifying. I looked at Mom, at Maria, trying to reconcile these revelations with 17 years of PTA meetings and soccer practices. Is that true? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. I was pregnant, she said finally. 3 months pregnant with you. Michael said if I didn't cooperate with the FBI, we'd both go to prison as accomplices. That you'd be born in federal custody. You were never going to be charged, Dad said desperately. I just needed you to understand how serious. You lied to me. Her voice was ice. For 20 years, you've been lying. About the charges, about the danger, about why we had to keep running. I found the real federal files 6 months ago, Michael. The ones that show I was never a target of the investigation. Vincent reached into his jacket, and for a horrible moment I thought he was going for a weapon. Instead, he pulled out a manila envelope and slid it across the table. Agent Morrison's been very cooperative, he said. Turns out federal marshals keep excellent records about their witness protection cases. Including which witnesses actually needed protection and which ones were just paranoid. Dad's face crumpled. Maria, please. Whatever they've promised you, whatever they've said, we can still get out of this. All 3 of us. There is no us anymore, she said, standing up. There hasn't been for a long time. I've just been waiting for the right opportunity to fix what we broke 20 years ago. Paul hefted the duffel bag. Cars downstairs. Vincent will drive. Maria, you ride up front, keep it looking like a normal family trip. What about Dad? I asked. Your father's going to stay here and wait for Agent Morrison, Vincent said. Have a nice long conversation about how witness protection works when the witness has been lying to everyone for 2 decades. Dad's eyes met mine across the table. Jesse, you don't have to do this. You can walk away right now. Call Morrison yourself, his number's in the bag. The bag we're taking with us, Paul pointed out. Along with Jesse. I'm not going anywhere, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. I don't care whose family you are or what happened 20 years ago. I'm not leaving my father here alone. Maria's expression softened for just a moment, the first glimpse of the mother I'd known in hours. Jesse, honey, your father made his choice a long time ago. Now it's time for you to make yours. I am making it, I said. I choose him. Vincent sighed and nodded to Paul, who moved around the table toward me. Then we do this the hard way. Paul's hand was reaching for my shoulder when the conference room lights cut out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, bathing everything in that sickly red glow that makes everyone look like they're bleeding. In the confusion, I heard Dad's chair scrape against the floor and Vincent cursing under his breath. Power grid, Paul muttered, pulling out his phone to use as a flashlight. Whole block's dark. Through the conference room windows, I could see he was right, the street lights were out, and the buildings across from us had gone completely black. Only the red emergency strips along the floor were providing any light. That's not a coincidence, Maria said, her voice tight with something that might have been fear. Morrison. Vincent was already at the window, peering down at the street 7 floors below. 3 black SUVs just pulled up. Federal plates. Agent Morrison hadn't been waiting for Dad's call after all. He'd been tracking us, probably monitoring Dad's phone, maybe even listening to our conversations. The power outage was tactical, cut the building's main systems before moving in. How long do we have? Paul asked, shouldering the duffel bag. Elevator's dead with the power out, Vincent replied. Stairwell access from the lobby. 5 minutes, maybe 6 if they're being careful. Maria grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. Jesse, listen to me. Whatever Agent Morrison has told your father about witness protection, about keeping us safe, it's all bullshit designed to control us. The marshals have been using our family as bait for 20 years, hoping someone would eventually come after Michael so they could roll up the rest of the Torino network. That's not true, Dad said, but his voice lacked conviction. The Morrison files prove it, she shot back. Every time we got relocated, every time someone got close to finding us, it was because the marshals leaked just enough information to keep us visible. They never wanted us to disappear completely. Paul was at the door, listening to sounds from the hallway. Footsteps in the stairwell. Multiple sets, coming up fast. There's a service elevator, Dad said suddenly. Northwest corner, behind the supply closet. It runs on backup power for emergencies. Vincent looked skeptical. You're helping us why? Because I've been lying to myself as much as everyone else, Dad replied, his voice hollow. Maria's right. Morrison's been playing all of us. The main elevator dinged softly, somehow still functional despite the power outage. That meant whoever was coming up had override access, federal-level clearance to operate building systems during emergencies. Move, Maria hissed. We ran through the maze of cubicles, emergency lighting casting crazy shadows that made everything look like a horror movie set. Behind us, I could hear the elevator doors opening and voices coordinating search patterns. The supply closet was exactly where Dad had said, hidden behind a wall of filing cabinets. Paul yanked the door open to reveal a narrow service elevator that looked like it hadn't been maintained since the Clinton administration. This thing actually works? I asked as we crowded inside. Backup generator powers essential systems only, Dad explained, hitting the button for the parking garage. It'll get us to sublevel 2, but after that we're on foot. The elevator lurched into motion with a grinding sound that suggested we were pushing our luck. Through the building structure, I could hear shouts from the 7th floor, Morrison's team discovering the empty conference room. They'll lock down the garage, Vincent said. Standard federal procedure. We'll be trapped down there. Not if we move fast enough, Maria replied. She was checking her phone, fingers flying across the screen. Elena's been monitoring federal frequencies. Morrison's team thinks they're running a rescue operation. They don't know I've been cooperating with you. Elena. My cousin, the little girl from those family photos, now old enough to hack federal communications. How many other relatives did I have that I'd never known about? The elevator shuddered to a stop at sublevel 2, doors opening onto the parking garage. Emergency lighting down here was even more sparse, just a few red bulbs every 50 feet, creating pools of visibility separated by deep shadows. Silver Toyota, Space 47, Maria said, leading us between concrete pillars toward the far end of the garage. Behind us, I could hear the service elevator climbing back up, probably being recalled by Morrison's people who'd figured out how we'd escaped the 7th floor. Jesse, Dad said as we half ran through the garage, whatever happens next, I want you to know that everything I did was because I thought it was protecting you and your mother. Everything you did was because you were scared, Maria corrected. Scared of prison, scared of my family, scared of taking responsibility for the choice you made to flip. We reached the Toyota, and Paul immediately started checking underneath for tracking devices while Vincent scanned the surrounding area for surveillance. Professional habits from a lifetime of being careful. Car's clean, Paul reported. But they'll have eyes on every exit. Maria started the engine, headlights cutting through the garage's darkness. There's a service tunnel that connects to the building next door. Construction access from when they renovated 5 years ago. Elena found the blueprints. As we pulled away from Space 47, headlights appeared in my side mirror, 2 sets, moving fast through the garage toward us. They found us, I said. Not yet, Maria replied, taking a sharp turn toward what looked like a solid concrete wall. Hold on. The wall turned out to be a cleverly disguised entrance, barely wide enough for a car. Maria drove through it like she'd done this before, which maybe she had. How long had she been planning this family reunion? The service tunnel was exactly as claustrophobic as it sounded, concrete walls on both sides, just enough room for a single vehicle, and the constant feeling that we were driving through a tomb. Morrison will have the whole federal building surrounded by now, Vincent said. Every exit, every tunnel, every possible escape route. Which is why we're not going where he expects, Maria replied, checking her mirrors. The tunnel ended at another hidden entrance, this one opening into the parking structure of what looked like a shopping complex. Maria drove calmly through the rows of parked cars like we were just another family heading home from dinner. Now what? I asked. She smiled in the rearview mirror, and for a moment she looked exactly like the mother who'd helped me with algebra homework just last week. Now we go see the rest of your family, Jesse. It's time you learned what the Torino name really means. We drove in silence through Portland's industrial district, past warehouses and freight yards that looked abandoned in the pre-dawn darkness. I kept checking my phone, 3:17 a.m., no signal, battery at 18%. The world outside felt surreal, like we'd slipped into some parallel version of my city where everything familiar had been stripped away. Maria finally pulled into what looked like a trucking company, Pacific Northwest Logistics, according to the faded sign by the gate. But instead of semis and loading docks, the lot was filled with ordinary cars and SUVs, and warm light spilled from windows that should have been dark at this hour. This is it, she said, turning off the engine. Your real family, Jesse. The building looked like a converted warehouse, but as we approached the entrance I could hear voices inside, not just a few people, but what sounded like a large gathering. Through the windows, I caught glimpses of children running around, adults sitting at long tables, the kind of scene you'd expect at a church social or community dinner. Vincent held the door open for us. Elena's been cooking all day. She wanted everything perfect for when you finally came home. Inside, the warehouse had been transformed into something that looked like a cross between a restaurant and a community center. Round tables filled the space, each one occupied by families, grandparents, parents, kids ranging from toddlers to teenagers. The walls were covered with photographs spanning decades, and I recognized faces from the pictures Paul had shown me earlier. A young woman with Maria's dark hair and my own jawline broke away from one of the tables and rushed toward us. This had to be Elena, no longer the little girl from those prison visiting room photos, but a woman about my age with intelligent eyes and a smile that lit up her entire face. Jesse. She threw her arms around me like we'd known each other forever. Oh my God, you look exactly like Papa Tony when he was your age. Doesn't he, Mama Maria? Maria's expression softened as she watched Elena embrace me. He does. Tony would have been so proud to meet him. This is overwhelming, I said, gently extricating myself from Elena's hug. I don't even know these people. But we know you, said an elderly woman who'd appeared at Elena's shoulder. She had to be in her 80s, but her grip was firm when she took my hands. I'm your great-grandmother Torino. Na to everyone here. I've been waiting 23 years to hold my great-grandson. 23 years. She'd been waiting since before I was even born. Nana made your favorite cookies, Elena said excitedly. Well, what she thinks will be your favorite. Anjanetti, they're lemon cookies with this amazing glaze. Papa Tony used to steal them from the kitchen when she wasn't looking. I found myself being gently guided toward one of the tables, where at least 15 people were waiting with expectant faces. Introductions became a blur, cousins, second cousins, family friends who'd been part of the business decades ago. Everyone had stories about my Uncle Tony, about Maria before she became Linda Chen, about the family I'd never known existed. We've been meeting here every month for 2 years, Elena explained, settling into the chair beside me. Ever since Mama Maria made contact and told us she wanted to come home. 2 years. Maria had been planning this reunion for 2 years, attending monthly family dinners while maintaining her perfect suburban mother act at home. Where's my father? I asked suddenly, the warmth of the gathering making me remember what we'd left behind. Vincent checked his phone. Still in federal custody, as far as we know. Morrison's people probably have him at their Portland field office. They won't hurt him, Maria said quietly. Whatever else Michael is, he's still a federal witness. They need him intact. Elena leaned closer, lowering her voice. We've been monitoring federal communications. Agent Morrison's been trying to reach his supervisors for 3 hours, but something's wrong with their chain of command. Like someone higher up doesn't want this situation resolved quietly. What does that mean? It means, said a gravelly voice from across the table, that your father might have been playing both sides longer than anyone realized. I looked up to see a man in his 50s, built like a brick wall, with scars along his knuckles that suggested a complicated past. This had to be another uncle, another piece of family history I'd never been told about. Jesse, Maria said carefully, meet your Uncle Frank. Tony's older brother. Frank studied my face with the intensity of someone reading a map. You've got the Torino chin, kid. And that stubborn look in your eyes, that's pure family genetics right there. Frank thinks Michael's been feeding information to multiple federal agencies, Elena explained. Not just Morrison's Witness Protection Program, but maybe FBI Organized Crime Task Forces, DEA financial investigators. Playing all sides to maximize his own protection. The room suddenly felt too small, too warm, too full of people who knew things about my father that I was only beginning to understand. You're saying he's been lying to everyone? Not just us. I'm saying, Frank replied, that your old man is either the most paranoid witness in federal protection history, or he's been running his own intelligence operation for the past 20 years. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Jesse, this is Agent Morrison. We know where you are. Your father wants to see you. Come to the federal building alone in 1 hour, or we start treating this as a kidnapping. I showed the message to Elena, who immediately started typing on her laptop. That's not Morrison's usual communication protocol, she said after a moment. And the metadata shows this text originated from a civilian tower, not federal systems. Someone's impersonating Morrison. I asked. Or, Vincent said grimly, Morrison's no longer calling the shots. Frank's phone rang, cutting through the warehouse chatter like a fire alarm. He answered with a grunt, listened for 30 seconds, then his face went completely white. We've got a problem, he said, ending the call. That was our contact at PPB. David Chen was found dead in his holding cell 20 minutes ago. Apparent suicide. The words hit me like a physical blow. No. No, that's impossible. Dad wouldn't. Jesse, honey, Maria started, reaching for my hand. I yanked away from her. Don't. Just don't. You've been lying to me for hours about everything else. Why should I believe this? Elena was already typing furiously on her laptop. I'm pulling the police scanner feeds. If there really was an incident at the federal building, there should be emergency response chatter. The warehouse had gone completely silent except for the clicking of her keyboard. Even the children had stopped playing, sensing the shift in adult energy. Nana crossed herself and started murmuring what sounded like prayers in Italian. Here, Elena said, turning her laptop so we could see the screen. Police dispatch logs from the last hour. I scanned the entries, looking for anything about the federal building or David Chin. Instead, I found something that made my stomach drop. 3:47 a.m., welfare check requested, 2847, Maple Street. Neighbors report suspicious activity. Our house. Someone had called in a welfare check on our house at 3:47 a.m. They're not at the federal building, I said slowly. They're at my house. Dad's at my house. Vincent grabbed the laptop, scrolling through more dispatch entries. Look at this. For 12 a.m., multiple units requested for barricaded subject situation, same address. For 23 a.m., crisis negotiation team en route. Frank was already standing, pulling on his jacket. It's a setup. They're using your father to draw us out. Or, Maria said quietly, Michael's finally decided to stop running. I stared at her. What does that mean? It means your father's been carrying 20 years of guilt about destroying my family. Maybe he's decided it's time to face what he did. Elena pulled up a new window on her laptop, live police scanner audio. The dispatcher's voice crackled through the speakers. All units, be advised subject is requesting to speak with family members. Specifically asking for wife Linda and son Jesse. My father was alive. He was in our house, asking for us, and half of Portland PD was apparently surrounding the building. How did he even get there? I asked. Morrison's people had him in custody. Vincent's phone buzzed with another call. This time his conversation was longer, punctuated by sharp questions and increasingly grim responses. When he hung up, his expression was grave. Morrison's been relieved of duty, he announced. As of 2 hours ago, the U.S. Marshal Service took over your father's case. Seems there were some irregularities in how witness protection was being handled. What kind of irregularities? Frank snorted. The kind where federal agents start working private contracts on the side. Morrison's been selling information about witness locations to the highest bidder for at least 5 years. The pieces started clicking into place. Morrison hadn't been protecting us, he'd been farming us out, keeping us visible enough for people like the Torinos to eventually find us, then charging both sides for information about the hunt. Elena's scanner crackled again, crisis team leader requesting immediate family contact. Subject becoming increasingly agitated. Mentions having insurance that needs to be delivered to specific parties. Insurance. I looked at the duffel bag sitting by my feet, Dad's carefully maintained escape kit that we'd carried through the night. What if it wasn't just escape supplies? What if those documents included evidence about Morrison's side business? He's not having a breakdown, I said suddenly. Dad's trying to expose Morrison. The whole suicide story, the barricaded situation, it's theater. He's buying time until the right people show up to hear what he has to say. Maria stood up, her decision made. Then we better get there before Morrison's people figure out what he's really doing. We arrived at my street to find it transformed into something from a crime thriller. Police cars lined both sides of Maple Avenue, their red and blue lights painting our neighborhood in surreal colors. News vans had already set up across from the Henderson's house, reporters doing live broadcasts about the dramatic standoff involving a federal witness. But as we parked 3 blocks away and approached on foot, I could see something the news cameras couldn't. Dad wasn't barricaded inside our house like some desperate fugitive. He was sitting calmly on our front porch, the go bag beside him, having what looked like a perfectly civilized conversation with two people in FBI windbreakers. That's not crisis negotiation, Elena whispered, studying the scene through binoculars. That's a deposition. She was right. Dad had turned our front porch into an impromptu federal courthouse, and judging by the stack of documents visible on our patio table, he was systematically dismantling Morrison's entire operation in front of witnesses who actually mattered. Agent Morrison himself was notably absent from the scene. Frank's phone buzzed with a text. Contact at FBI says Morrison was arrested 2 hours ago. 23 counts of federal witness tampering, conspiracy, and racketeering. They found offshore accounts with over $2.8 million. Money from selling witness locations, Maria said grimly. Including ours. Vincent pointed toward our house. Your father just handed them something. Documents, looks like. Through Elena's binoculars, I watched Dad pull more papers from the duffel bag, not just his fake identities and escaped cash, but evidence he'd apparently been collecting for years. Financial records, recorded phone calls, documentation of every time Morrison had accidentally let our location slip to interested parties. He never trusted Morrison, I realized. That's why he kept the go bag by the door. Not to run from you guys, but to run from Morrison when the time came. One of the FBI agents stood up, speaking into his radio with obvious urgency. Within minutes, 3 more federal vehicles arrived, these ones carrying people who looked significantly more senior than the local crisis team. Jesse. Dad's voice carried across the street. He'd spotted us despite our attempt to stay hidden. It's okay. You can come home now. The police line parted as we approached, Maria holding my hand like she had when I was little and needed courage for the first day of school. Dad stood up from our porch table, looking exhausted but oddly peaceful, like a man who'd finally stopped carrying a weight he'd been holding for 20 years. Agent Morrison won't be bothering anyone anymore, he said as we reached our front yard. Turns out keeping detailed records of federal crimes is only smart if you're planning to be the one doing the prosecuting. Dad, I'm so sorry about the Instagram post. I didn't know Dash. You didn't know because I never told you, he interrupted gently. That's on me, not you, son. Maria stepped forward, still holding my hand but looking uncertain for the first time all night. Michael, I Dash. You did what you had to do, Maria. For your family, for closure, for Tony's memory. I understand. One of the senior FBI agents approached us, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and the bearing of someone used to cleaning up other people's messes. Mr. Torres, or should I say Mr. Chin. We're going to need extensive debriefing about Agent Morrison's activities. But first, I understand your family has some decisions to make about your future arrangements. Dad looked at Maria, then at me, then at the extended Torino family standing respectfully at the edge of our yard. I think, he said slowly, we've all been running from the wrong things for too long. The go bag sat empty beside our porch table, finally serving its real purpose. Not escape, but homecoming. For the first time in 20 years, my father had unpacked everything.